We're going to talk today, we're going to get into a lot of detail about spreadsheets. And there are a few things that I want to share with you about sharing documents first. Actually, let me pull up my sharing in Docs presentation. By default, when I create a new document, and I'm just going to create a new spreadsheet here. Right now I'm at docs.google.com I'm sorry, I'm at this very long and cumbersome URL that you could get to by typing in docs.coffeekooks.com. So here I am, I'm looking at the Google Docs interface, and if I create for myself a new spreadsheet by clicking on Create New and then Spreadsheet, it will create a new tab, and then I'll just call it My Funky Spreadsheet. And by default, it's important for you to know that everything that you create inside of Google Docs is private, and you can see this all the way up at the top. It says "Private only to me," and if I click on this link right here. It's thinking a second. Actually, I'll try clicking on my share link over here also. And if I click on share and then sharing settings, I can see that basically currently it's private. Only the people listed below can access it, which is me. And if I want to add the names of individual people, whether they were inside the coffeekooks.com domain or not, I would just go down to add people. Now, frequently, if you're in a small work group, you'll want to create a situation where you share documents with everyone inside of the Coffee Kooks domain. And so if I click on Change up here, I have a bunch of sharing settings options. There's actually 5, and they're different sets of options in different contexts, depending on what it is you're trying to share within Google Apps. But instead of, and these are all pretty self-explanatory, and I'm just going to click on coffeekooks.com, and I'll even allow anyone who's interested to edit this. And so now basically people at coffeekooks.com can find this and access this. And so I'm going to click on Save. And here it goes. Here's just a reiteration of what I chose a moment ago. And then up here at the top it says paste this link in an email or in an IM, and this link is the link that I want to send to anyone that I would like to be able to see this document. I'm not going to send an email to anyone. I'm not going to add people down here to send out email notifications. I'm just going to share it. Oops, actually I'm just going to click cancel. And now I can see that the permissions of this document are for everybody at the Coffee Kooks domain. I'm the owner, and everybody can find it and edit it. So if I click on close here. So I'm going to make this window a little bit smaller just so that you can see it. And I'll just type, here's some dummy data in it. Actually, I need to select this. Here's some dummy data. And I'll click on Save. Now, what I'm going to do now is open up another Google Apps account. So you can see up here, this says mm2 at coffeekooks.com. This is a separate account that I created for myself. And if I click on All Items, I have this spreadsheet, which it's not interesting to us right now. I'll just trash that. But basically, nothing is here in All Items. The document that I just created, My Funky Spreadsheet, is not listed here as it's something that's in my All Items. If I clicked on Shared with Me, it's not listed there either. If I type in Funky into search coffeekooks.com docs, we can see my funky spreadsheet, which was created for me. But by default, when I share something, people will not necessarily see it. But I can search for it if it's shared with me and then see it. So if I click on my funky spreadsheet, now here I am as user MM2, which you can see up here, and here's the spreadsheet that was created by the Michael Milton account. And so I can edit this as I like. Just say this is a MM2 edit. And if I want to see it permanently in my file list, I can click on Sharing Settings and actually add myself. I'm not the owner or anything, but if I click Share and it's sharing, of course it'll just take a little second, click Close. Then when I go under All Items back at my file list for MM2, I can see my funky spreadsheet. So it's kind of funny, just because if you share a file or a document at the domain level, people won't necessarily see it unless you email them a link for it, and unless they themselves add themselves to the share list explicitly, even though they're implicitly there because when you set up the file so that everybody at the domain can view it, in order for them to see it under their file area, they need to go into the file and say, make me one of the explicit collaborators on this file. So it's just kind of funny. I mean, I think probably the idea is, if we had 50 people and absolutely everybody was creating documents and sharing them with the entire domain, then quickly this all items view would get overwhelmed with documents that people were creating. And so perhaps it makes sense to only see documents that I have explicitly said that I wanted to see in my all items list. But it's just important to remember that people won't necessarily be notified that you've shared a document with them unless you explicitly tell them about it. So that's one little thing in regards to sharing. And there's another piece of information I'd like to share with you in regards to sharing. I'm going to go back to Chrome. Actually, going to go ahead and close this. Right now, I'm looking at the Michael Milton at coffeekooks.com. And we can see right here in real time the edit that my other user account added has been included in this spreadsheet. It's one of the really, really awesome things about Google Docs and Google Apps is that you have the ability to do that. Have multiple people working on the same sheet at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and click on File and then Save and Close. And here I am back to my Google Docs main list, main document list. There's something that I really, really strongly urge you to use when you're collaborating with documents, and that is to use folders. Now, you don't have to use folders. You can just have your documents float around inside of your Google Docs installation. But if you use folders, you can set special permissions on those folders that will allow you to just drop files into them and have all of those permissions apply without you needing to look at the individual file and manually play with the permissions on each individual file. So down here we can see this is my set of presentations for these classes. We're in session 2 right now, and if I click on session 2, we can see these are the various files for session 2. And this Google Apps class folder is actually listed under folders shared with me, and the reason is because I created it on my personal Google Docs account, and then I shared it with this particular login, Michael Milton at coffeekooks.com. So definitely go into go to create. If you want to share something important, I would suggest that you go to Create New, click on Folder, and give your folder a good name like Important Things. And then click on the sharing parameters for your folder. And as you find necessary, share your parameters with coffeekooks.com or whatever particular access restriction you want to use. As you can see in this case, the sharing settings are slightly different from what they were when we were looking at the Google Docs sharing. We were looking at the Google Spreadsheets list of sharing options. So if I click on Save, we'll be basically in the same situation we were with the file that I just created. Everybody at coffeekooks.com will be able to find and edit this important documents folder that I created. But unless I add them manually or send them the link, they won't be notified about the existence of that folder. So they'll actually need to go into it themselves and add themselves as somebody on it if they want to accept the invitation and see the folder permanently in their Google Docs file list, the way I can see my Google Apps folder right now. So that basically is the end of our second section. Just to recap, documents that you create inside of Google Docs by default are private. It's a good idea to create folders, and you can set access permissions at the folder level, and everything that you put in that folder will take on the access levels, the access parameters of that folder. And different type of assets, whether we're talking about folders or spreadsheets or whatever, have a different range of options that you can pick from in terms of setting your permissions. Everything is pretty clear inside of these dialog boxes within Google Apps, but it pays just to experiment a little bit and play around with it. And as you can see, if I click on my password manager, I've just got so many Google logons, it's silly, and it doesn't hurt to create extra logons for yourself just to try to experiment with sharing to make sure you understand exactly how it works. So that's the end of my second section. Now this would be a good time to take a couple questions.
One question from GoToWebinar. To get to the folders that you've created, can you just tack the folder name onto the URL?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I sort of blew past that. What I'm going to do now, I mean, can you just tag the folder name onto the URL? If I look at the sharing parameters of the folder that I just created, I'm going to copy it and stick it in a text document so that we can look at it. This is kind of a big, long, and cumbersome URL. And I'm sorry. Yeah, it has this ID element in it, and honestly, that ID element is I couldn't tell you exactly what pieces of information are in it, but this right now is not shared with the world. So you basically, when you use this URL, it will sign you into the coffeekooks.com Google Docs area. You'll have to enter your individual password, and then if you've been granted permission to it or not, you may or may not end up seeing the folder. And I'm sure that the ID contains information, a variety of pieces of information that helps Google adjudicate whether to give you access and who you are in conjunction with your login. So no, I don't think that there's an easy way to say docs.google.com/a/coffeekooks/important things. I think you just need to stick with the URLs that Google creates automatically.
I have another question from within the chat room. Bruce wants to know if you can view and edit documents offline and have them update for you automatically when you log in.
So that's actually that's a really, really wonderful question, and the answer is not going to be terribly satisfying at this point. Next week we're going to talk a little bit more about using Google Docs as a file system, as a repository for large quantities of file that you've already created. But let me just sort of give you kind of a preview of that. There are some one of the big questions for Google Docs in terms of apps and in terms of just non-apps users is offline access. And this was one of these features that Google actually granted everyone through a browser plugin technology called Gears, and then took away several weeks, or it's probably months ago, presumably in preparation for the rollout of a completely different technological platform based on HTML5. So I think that Google is very sensitive to the fact that people, it's an impediment for people who want to use these products if they're not necessarily online all the time. So there's going to be, I'm very confident, a very elegant, obvious solution to doing this in the future. Directly within side of Google without you having to do any special configuration. If you have an appetite for special configuration, there are a few apps on the App Store, and I can't remember the name off the top of my head, and I think they may actually be available only to Premier customers, that provide syncing between a locally stored file share and Google Docs. And I think the prices are relatively small. I think there's actually one company. I just wish I could remember what it was. But there are some organizations, I think, that facilitate that. But short answer, the big elegant solution is still on its way.
A question from in our in-house audience today.
Hi, can you hear me okay, Michael?
Yeah, I'm great.
Okay. When I go to my sharing settings dialog, it's a little bit different than yours that you showed on screen, and that there's a reset link there that says that if I click that, then it changes the whole link so that nobody who had it before can see it unless they're explicitly added, and it's a whole new link. Is that, I don't know if I'm doing something different or wrong, but it wasn't on your screen.
Yeah, it may be that let me save this. I probably can bring it up. If I click under share this folder, sharing settings. Oh, it's interesting. It's not here. Were you looking at a folder or a document?
No, it was right there, that dialog that you opened, and it was just below the link off to the right. It says reset link. I've got it on my screen now.
Just below
right
the
there.
link off to the right. Okay.
Yeah, just right up there. Above where it says change.
Above where it says what?
Change, right there, where your cursor is.
Yeah.
So.
And you're looking at a folder that you created?
I'm looking at a spreadsheet that I created.
Oh, you're looking not at a spreadsheet at a folder, but at a spreadsheet. So if I click on sharing settings for My Funky Spreadsheet, let's see.
Yes, it was right above change.
Yeah, it probably depends. It probably depends on your permissions. What sort of permissions did you have? Was it based at the domain, or was it?
Yeah, I set up one exactly like yours with my own Google Apps account with my own domain and everything. There it is. Yeah. See, so one of the things I just did was I changed the permissions to anyone who has the link. So I think that particular link that you were using, I think that particular parameter of permissions, if you'll pardon the P's, is what you can use to do reset link. And basically, this is you would use this in a situation where you don't necessarily mind everyone in the world in principle seeing it, and you want your security to be based on do you have this obscure link. It's actually security by obscurity, I think, is a term of art. And you can reset that obscure link if you want to. And security by... I'm sorry, go ahead.
So someone who had the link and was able to edit and turned out to be a problem, you could reset the link and then send out the new one to the people that you want to keep. Yeah,
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't necessarily think of a condition when like that specific set of events would happen, but I'm sure it's conceivable. And yeah, I mean, if that's how you wanted to do it. Yeah, I probably could spend an hour talking about the permutations of all of these different little sharing options, and I wish I had more time to do that.
Well, that's for part 2, right?
Oh, yeah, sure, you bet.
We do have a quick question from the chat room. Can a domain administrator view all documents, even if the user who created them marked them as private?
Yeah, this is actually a good question. Not just documents, but emails. And this is one of those. The answer is no for the standard edition. But that level of control is one of the things you get when you pay for the Premier edition. And when our 5th class session is going to be in large part about the differences between the Premier edition and the standard edition, and that's just one of them. So if you logged on to coffeekooks.com and you have an email address, I cannot read those emails, and that's just a function of the fact that I'm at a relatively I'm at the free edition of this software. I would need to upgrade in order to be able to do that as the owner.
So there's more sharing with the paid software than the free software?
I guess, well, it's a very special type of sharing that you're talking about here. It's the ability of the domain, of the system administrator to look at everything, to look at all of the private documents that were created. And yeah, I mean, so that's definitely right.